Hey, you're listening to Pure Light, where we explore how you can believe in yourself and be happy with who you are so that you feel worthy of your craziest dreams and confident in your power to make them happen. My name is Ailey. I'm a coach, writer, and Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher. This is episode 71. So this episode is a little bit different than other episodes. If you're listening to this on the day that it's published, my birthday is this week. It's actually tomorrow. I'm turning 40. So I wanted to share 4 things that I've learned in 40 years. These aren't necessarily the most important or the biggest lessons. They're just the things that are, for whatever reason, top of mind right now. I find birthdays in general are a good time to reflect, and especially on the big ones. And it's kind of interesting to look back and see what I was thinking about life at earlier points. Because I remember being 9 and thinking that turning 10 was a big deal, because that meant that I would hit double digits. And I had this sense that there was no going back, which is kind of funny because that's really true at any age. But for whatever reason, it was really top of mind at that point. I went to summer camp from the time that I was 5 to the time that I was 15. And when I was there, I would look at the counselors and think like, wow, some of them are really old. And the ones that seemed really old were the ones who were 20 or older. So when I turned 20, I had this idea in my head that life is kind of over. Like I have to be responsible. I have to grow up. I have to be an adult. And so I did what I thought I should do in order to be those things, in order to be professional and responsible. And as a result, I was pretty conservative and risk averse in my 20s. And then towards the end of my 20s, I got into yoga and I realized life didn't have to be that way. So by the time I turned 30, I was like, bring it on. And I was also like, thank God my 20s are over, because I decided that I was going to do what I wanted to do instead of what I thought I should do. And, that kind of shifted a lot of things for me. And now that I'm turning 40, I feel like this is just the beginning. And I say that knowing that I have no idea how much time I have left. But I am grateful for it all and curious to see what happens next. So a few years ago, when I was reevaluating my life, this was another point where I was doing a lot of reflection. I was on a trip to Australia. This was, I think I was 30 or 31. And I spent a few days in Tasmania with some friends of my parents, Arch and Gayleen. So I had met them when I was about 11 to 13. So they had lived in Toronto a number of years earlier and then moved back to Australia. And the point that I reconnected with them was right after I had gotten into yoga. And when I told Gayleen I was interested in doing a teacher training, she was like, you should talk to my yoga teacher because she's been teaching for years. So I spoke to this woman who'd been teaching yoga for, I think it was like 25 or 30 years. And I went into that conversation under the assumption that by the end of yoga teacher training, I would know everything that I needed to know about yoga. And this teacher told me, like, I'm still learning. I don't know everything. I don't think you can know everything. I've been teaching for years and I'm still discovering things that I don't know. So I left that conversation really confused because I was like, why wouldn't I know everything about yoga after teacher training? And then the following year, I did my first yoga teacher training. And at the end of it, I was like, oh my God, I don't know anything. I realized that that teacher was right, that was just the beginning. Because it was just kind of showing me a glimpse of what I could learn. So the first lesson today is that I don't really know anything. The lessons never end. You're never done evolving. And even though I use assertions here, that doesn't mean I know everything. And it doesn't mean that I've overcome these things in every aspect of my life. Like I've probably learned about it in relation to, whatever experience I've shared. But that's not to say it's not going to come up at another level, because you may learn something at one level and then get challenged at the next. Because some of the issues that I had in my 20s showed up in my life in totally different ways in my 30s. So you don't really know what has been healed until stuff comes up. And that's why life is an ongoing evolution. It's not like you're always going to be the same person. In fact, I would say that you're never going to be the same person, because in each moment you're taking in new ideas and experiences and processing that in your awareness. So you're constantly shifting and evolving. So I remember a few years ago on Super Soul Sunday, Oprah asked Deepak Chopra, "What do you know for sure?" And his answer was nothing. And I remember thinking like, wow, that's crazy, especially given how many books he's written and all the other work he's put out into the world. But now I totally get it. So I'm really grateful for this lesson, and I'm looking forward to continue to learn and just see what comes up. So the second lesson that I want to share today is that it's okay to change your mind. And this kind of relates to the first one, because if you're never done growing and evolving, you should expect to change your mind. You should expect that, as new information and awareness becomes available to you, you will see things from a different perspective. I remember when I got into Kundalini Yoga, one of the things that bothered me about Yogi Bhajan was that he contradicted himself. He would say one thing, and then in a different class or a different lecture, he would say something that was like the total opposite. And it really bothered me. And I'll also say this was all through either, like lectures or videos or, written transcripts, because Yogi Bhajan passed away before I ever got into Kundalini. Our culture tends to judge people when they change their minds, especially politicians. And I think it's because we have this sense of like, I thought I knew who you were, but now who are you? You've changed your opinion, and now that changes my opinion of you. But there's no room for growth if you're not willing to change your mind. Like, I thought meditation was totally pointless a number of years ago. I was like, why would anyone ever do that? And now it's the total opposite. I think that if people really understood what was possible as a result of it, everyone would meditate. And it wouldn't be something that's like on your to-do list that you never get to. It would be the thing that you prioritize and look forward to. And actually, it's funny too, because in the first episode of this podcast, I talked about how I changed my mind about Kundalini Yoga. Because initially, when I first tried it, I was like, I'm never doing that again. But then a few years later, I had like a craving to do it and to do a teacher training, and now I teach it. So changing your mind is a sign of growth, not weakness. It's a sign that you're evolving. And I'll expand on that even more to say, it's also okay to believe two things that contradict each other at the same time. Like, it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both and. So you can believe in science and you can believe in things that don't make sense, like miracles and God and whatever that is for you. This is one that took me a long time to learn, especially after going through engineering, because they're everything you could figure out with a formula. And it's one that I keep learning because sometimes it seems like both things are not possible. But then I'm like, wait a second, it's okay to believe in both. And I think that the more that you can embrace those opposites within yourself, the more fully you become yourself, because those crazy contradictions are part of what makes you unique. So the third lesson that I want to share is that it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be human. It's okay to want what you want. It's okay to feel how you feel. It's okay to do what you feel called to do. It's okay to contradict yourself. It's okay to be weird. It's okay to be normal. Like, whatever it is, it's okay. And a big part of this too is that it's okay to be wherever you are, even if you don't want to be there and wish you were somewhere else, like somewhere further along whatever path you're on. And I know that that one can be pretty hard, because when you find yourself somewhere that you don't want to be in life, there's a tendency that comes up that's like, I want to fix this. Like, I want to force myself to be somewhere else. But the problem is usually not where we are. It's the resistance that we have towards being there. And that comes from the judgment that we should be somewhere else, or maybe we should be someone else, or we should feel something else. So the thing that usually shifts that resistance isn't trying harder or trying to force your way out. It's accepting how you feel about it, because when you do that, the resistance disappears, and all of a sudden, possibilities open up. So the fourth lesson that I want to share is that life is way more interesting when you do things that scare you. If you feel stuck or bored or like you're just going through the motions, it could be a sign that you're playing it too safe. Because life expands when you choose to do things that challenge you, that challenge your comfort zone, that challenge your limiting beliefs, and things that allow you to follow your heart, because following your heart is what makes life feel more alive. So it gets you out of that stuckness and boredom. And when you don't follow your heart, you shut down that part of yourself. So you become numb in a way. And you also teach yourself that your heart isn't worthy of being followed. So when you notice whatever desires you have or whatever things excite you, it's best if you welcome them with a willingness to go after them, because that is what's going to expand your life and allow you to become the person that you were meant to be. So the highest version of yourself. So these are some of the things that I've learned in the time that I've been on the planet, and I have no doubt there will be more to come. In the next few episodes, I'm going to be talking about self-judgment, because that's something else that I've learned quite a bit about. If you want to make sure that you get those, subscribe to Pure Light wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, may you be guided by your light.